We've been gearing up for Aligned 17, which is a virtual conference dedicated to sales and marketing alignment. It's happening May 22nd through the 26th, and we wanted to do something special for B2B Growth listeners. Leading up to the event, we'll be giving you early access to some of the Aligned 17 sessions. Today's episode is exactly that. So if you like today's interview, head over to aligned17.com and sign up to access every session of the event. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers, including Gary Vaynerchuk, Jill Conrath, Tony Hughes, Tucker Max, and Trish Bertuzzi, along with dozens of other B2B sales and marketing experts. So go to aligned17.com and sign up today.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Aligned 2017. Really excited for today's session. I say that every time, but John Barrows is one of my favorite guys. We were just geeking out a little bit about Gary Vaynerchuk. Him and I share a mutual respect for Gary. John, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who's John Barrows. Why should we even be listening to you in the first place?
Yeah, that's actually probably the best question you got. I don't know, man. I'm a sales training consultant, but I work with companies like Salesforce, LinkedIn Box, Dropbox, Aptus, Okta, a lot of the tech, fast growing companies out in San Francisco and around the world. And I work with their teams on skills-based training. But I always say I'm not really a trainer. I'm a sales guy that came across some really good stuff, and I happen to be all right sharing it with people. But I sell every day because things are moving a little bit too fast right now to be talking about what was happening last year, right? I mean, sales is evolving real fast, and if we're not staying on top of it, we're going to become dinosaurs real fast and get replaced real fast by all the technology that's out there too. So I'm a practitioner. I fuck up just like everybody else. I try new things. I learn more from my mistakes than anything else, and I try and share them with as many people as I can.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, you are definitely one of those practitioners who are still in it every day. I follow you a lot on social, so love the stuff that you're doing. And let's just dive right in. First question, why do you think sales and marketing really have been misaligned over the last, I guess always, right?
Yeah, always. I mean, I've been in sales now. My degree's in marketing, so that's what I went to school for, mainly because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I still don't. But
figuring it out
marketing for me was, I went to college. I drank my way through 4 years of school, and I decided marketing was good because my first major was actually art. And so I figured, all right, marketing, make some money. Like art, there's no way I was going to make money in it. So I was like, well, maybe business, I can apply some of that. And so I graduated, realized it wasn't what I wanted to do, and kind of got into sales like everybody else, kind of stumbled into it and then evolved into it. And, for 20 years now, I've been selling, and for 20 years, I've been hearing about the disconnect between sales and marketing. And a lot of it has to do with just proximity and understanding, right? I mean, usually sales sits on the third floor, marketing sits on the fourth floor. Marketing comes up with content that they think is good, and then sales and then they throw it over the fence to sales, and sales does or doesn't use it, and then says, yeah, the leads are crap, or that content was crap, or whatever, and marketing's like, well, why? And like, I don't know, it just is. And it's almost this chicken and egg thing where it's the leads that marketing has generated are, I don't know what came first, should be leads or should be follow up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it's been pretty much spiraled out of control at this point, because now there's just a perception that most marketing leads are shitty, and a perception that most sales reps are not going to follow up with them. And so it's almost like they just throw their hands up and say, who cares? So I think a lot of it has to do with also where we are. And I think this is going to evolve into this conversation here, which is, sales, there's two sides, right? There's both in sales and marketing, there's the quantity and the quality side, where before phones and emails and all that other stuff, sales was all about quality, right? It was like we literally had to knock on doors and make the most out of every single opportunity. and make sure that we were thoughtful with our approach there. And then the phone came around and people just started blasting out, generic cold calls and kicking that up. And that really crushed, a lot of, that drove results because it was relatively new. Email came out. And then with email, and then content marketing and all this other stuff, it just kind of got out of control with all the content that is out there. And now it's more like sales and marketing fight each other than they do work with each other. I talk to sales reps all the time who are just like, my marketing department just spams the shit out of the clients. And, by the time I call them, they're so sick of hearing from us. They don't even want me to, they don't want to talk to us. And vice versa. I hear marketing saying, look, all our reps are doing is sending out the same generic emails that we're sending, and I don't understand why they're doing it. And I personally don't either. I mean, I think right now, with marketing and all the marketing automation tools, sales reps blasting out template emails and stuff doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. So it's just this push and pull, and I think it's, what I thought of the other day is I thought this was interesting because, the chief revenue officer, that title really just hit probably, 2 or 3 years ago. It really started becoming popular at CRO, right? Yep. And you're like, well, why the hell do you need a CRO when you have a VP of sales and a CEO and a CMO? And the reason there's a CRO, I'm absolutely convinced with this. The only reason that a CRO really came in is because sales and marketing couldn't get along. So you have a VP of sales and you have a CMO and they're fighting each other. And the CEO is just like, what the fuck? Just could you get along? And by the way, I'm a CEO. I'm trying to run this business. I'm trying to, drive this organization. I don't have time to deal with your bickering here between the VP of sales and CMO. So I'm just going to hire a CRO here and they're going to babysit. And you're both going to report to them. And I don't want to hear any more shit. And so that's really why, and that's kind of a step in the right direction, to at least align the responsibilities of both departments under one umbrella, right?
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that. I actually hadn't thought of that before, so that's great. What do you think makes a good CRO?
That's a good question. I don't know enough. I'm going to be straight up with you. I don't really know enough about the CRO role to speak that educated about it. But, I think the best part about it is just making sure that there's alignment, making sure that the VP of sales and the CMO are talking to each other and the metrics, the KPIs are all in sync. Yeah. Right? Because a lot of times, like before a CRO, it was like marketing would come up with their KPIs and their, what they needed to do. And then sales would come up with their KPIs and they would kind of hope that they aligned, but they obviously don't. I mean, if you look at marketing is metric based on the marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads. But what is a sales qualified lead? And sales is more generated based on revenue and those type of things. So it's like, well, marketing could be crushing their MQLs and funneling a whole show of MQLs over to sales, but there's no revenue you know what I mean? So sales is like, okay, well, if my conversion ratios on those MQLs are bad, then I'm just not going to pay attention to them, and then it breaks, right? Because then I don't care about the MQLs that are being sent over to me. I'm telling my reps, forget about marketing, go out and do your own thing, and then it just, and so I think without being truly educated or sitting in the shoes of a real CRO, and it'd be good to have a conversation with a CRO to understand, what their main, focus points are and goals are. But I think the just ensuring that everybody is moving in the same direction and those priorities and the KPIs all directly align with each other and support each other, then as opposed to conflict with each other. I would say, just from my uneducated approach or knowledge of it, I think that would probably be the most important part of it, in my opinion.
I love it. What else can sales and marketing do to get better aligned?
It's I guess just can sit with each other. I mean, I know it sounds basic, but when I talk about the sales is on the third floor, marketing is on the fourth floor. I mean, that's legit. That happens. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I were to ever start another organization and, for instance, be a CRO or something like that, when I would put together a team, I would literally put them right next to you. I'd have one sales rep, one marketing, one sales rep, one marketing. And what would happen is marketing would have to come up with content and then give it over to sales and then listen to how it was applied. You know what I mean? Like they would have to actually sit there on the call blitz and listen to say, ooh, is that working? Is that not? I kind of go back to some old school stuff here with how I see marketing and sales alignment and the gap of it, right? If you kind of go back to, Glengarry Glen Ross, right? The Alec Baldwin scene. And if anybody, by the way, who's watching this hasn't seen that movie, don't watch the movie. It's a depressing ass movie, but go watch the best 8 minutes.
Go watch that scene. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
So, and in there, he talks about ABC always be closing, but he also talks about AIDA, right? And it's attention, interest, desire, action. And I actually thought he made this up, but I looked it up, and this was actually the first thing that put any process into sales whatsoever. In 1898, a guy by the name of St. Elmo Lewis came up with this, and he said, these are the 4 mental stages we all need to go through before we buy something. First, something needs to get our attention, then we have to be interested in it, then we have to have a desire for it, and then we have to move to act. So if we think about it, right, in today's world, like how long do we have to get someone's attention in today's world, right? Seconds, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's, and the easy proof on this is just look through your phone, right? I mean, you scroll through your iPhone, you look at the name of the person. If you don't like the name of the person, you look at the subject line. If you don't like the subject line, you move on, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Same thing with calls. Like if you're getting those calls from those auto dialers these days, where it's like you have to say hello twice. You know what I mean? It's like there's a pause where it's like hello. 99% of people hang up after they say hello that second time.
Yep.
And so we have seconds to get someone's attention. That earns us an extra couple of minutes where we can talk a little bit, right? Maybe ask a question or two and give a stronger value proposition. And then that earns us a meeting, whether that's 15 minutes over the phone or 60 minutes in person. And if we think about sales and marketing, right, I think marketing usually does a really good job on the brand awareness, right? Maybe driving inbound leads type of thing, or at least, getting people's attention that way. And then they do a really good job with content once I'm in a conversation. So like once I'm actually in a conversation with a client, the case studies, the presentations, like all that stuff that marketing comes together with is actually pretty legit. Where I think marketing tends to miss and where I think sales reps need the most help is actually in that A phase, that attention phase. Literally as a sales rep, when I pick up the phone, what do I say? Like literally, like what are the words that come out of my mouth? And in the email, like what's the email that I send to that prospect? What's the messaging that I use to send to that prospect that isn't a whole book about how awesome my company is and how we're the leading provider of anything, but that 2 scrolls on an iPhone, 1 scroll on an iPhone, those type of things. And that's where I think the misalignment is. So to your question of what can sales and marketing do to align more directly, my favorite way, and this is a very tactical thing, forget about technology, forget about tools, forget about any of that, because so many people like look to technology to solve a problem when it's right there in front of them. Yeah. Just execute, right? And go old school, pen and paper, right? And my favorite way of doing this is, and by the way, this ties into something else that I think is necessary for sales reps. I don't think sales reps get enough education just for business acumen purposes. You know what I mean? Like finally sales is starting to become this a profession and something that is educated, but there's still over 4,000 colleges in America and you can still only get your degree in sales in less than 30 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's finally starting to get there. Right. But the problem is we teach on skill, we teach on technique, we teach on process, we teach on all this stuff. But what we don't teach on is business acumen. It's like helping a kid right out of school have that conversation with an executive. Like, how do you even just have a conversation with a normal business conversation? You know what I mean? Not just your band questions and that type of crap. So the way, and I do this in my training, and I recommend anybody do this, you don't need to be special to do this, is you run a call blitz. And what happens is, my favorite way to run a call blitz is actually to reverse engineer a case study. I think, by the way, for any marketers that are out there listening to this, the only thing that I would focus on if I was a marketer are case studies, stories, and ideally identifying quantifiable results within those case studies. So it's not like, after they implemented our solution, they got significantly better results. No. Bullshit. Yeah. Like they were able to show, we were able to show this client how to improve their conversion ratios from 5 to 15% after implementing our stuff. And we increased their average ACV to 20, by whatever it is. So that case study, what happens now is marketing comes in and does a little lunch and learn and reverse engineer a case study. So at the bottom of the case study is usually the result. What kind of result did you drive for that company? That becomes my attention grabber. So not elevator pitch and like leading provider of it, but what I call attention grabbers, again, AIDA, attention. And you could say, hey, we showed this company in your industry how to drive these type of results, right? So that's my message, right? So now because that fits a very specific persona, I can come up with 2 or 3 questions that are relevant to that persona. So instead of saying like, hey, tell me about your priorities or something like that, which is a very generic, whatever, and you usually get very vague answers. Say you're going after VPs of sales in the SaaS industry that use Salesforce, for instance, and you have a case study that supports that. And you can say, hey, the reason for my call today is we showed this VP of sales in the SaaS industry how to drive these type of results using our solution. I'd love to have that conversation with you. And then when okay, well, what do you want to talk about? Instead of tell me about your priorities, well, typically VPs of sales in the SaaS industry who use Salesforce are telling us that their top initiatives moving into 2017 are X, Y, and Z. Are those yours? Right? So it kind of seems like you know what the you're talking about. And then you're going to have a story to tell them so that when they engage in that conversation, you say, oh, that's interesting because we had this other client that actually had a very similar situation and they were able to implement our solutions and see this type of results. So now marketing comes in, does that little, hey, everybody, here's the persona we're going after. Here's a message that we're going to use to reach out to them. Here's 2 or 3 questions that we can ask from a qualification standpoint. And here's a story we can tell them with a case study. Now, everybody from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, run a list and we're all going to call into the same persona using the same message. And marketing now sits in on that call blitz and listens in and see how does that resonate. And then everybody, like I said, goes old school with a pen and paper here. And instead of, trying to figure out some cool technology to track and shit, literally just write down how many calls, how many referrals, how many meetings did you set up, right? So everybody just does a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at the end of that call blitz, you collect all the numbers and you say, hey, everybody, we had 20 reps. And usually in an hour, if you prepare for it the right way, you can probably make about $20, $25 in an hour, no problem. So now you got 20 reps making 20 phone calls with one approach to one persona. You got 400 data points there that you can point to and say that worked or no, that didn't. And then marketing can come back and say, okay, what do we need to tweak for next time? And literally, if you just do this once a week, first of all, camaraderie, you have some fun with it. The reps are learning something. They're hearing each other do it. So again, with a similar message. So it's not like, oh, that was totally random. It's like, oh, I like the way that kid actually said that. And, I heard a very similar objection. So I can now gain momentum around this. And then we can produce results that say, oh, that worked or no, that didn't work. And it has direct feedback to marketing and they can see how it's playing. So that to me is something that any company can do with no resources whatsoever, no excuses either, right? As far as we don't have time, we don't have the resources. Like anybody can pick up a phone and come up with a message and do a lunch and learn and run a call blitz for an hour. Anybody can do that.
Dude, I love it. Amazing. I haven't heard that one before, but I love that aligning basically around a case study, right? That's really all it is. Industry specific, result specific. And then sit in on those calls with your reps.
Yep.
I love it. All right, let's talk really quickly about ABM, right? Yeah. Because sales marketing alignment is a big part of ABM, account-based marketing, or as Engagio calls it, account-based everything. Why, in your mind, do you think it's so hot right now?
It kind of makes me laugh here. Like, just because somebody put a new acronym around it means it's cool now. ABM doesn't bother me as much as ABS, right? Like people talking about account-based selling, like that's been around forever. Like you call up, Miller Hyman or Taz or anyone. I mean, they've been doing account-based selling forever. What account-based marketing to me is, I think it's just a realization from the marketing world that we can't spam the shit out of everybody anymore. It's an admission that in a veiled way that we have to stop just blasting out a million emails to anybody we feel like sending emails to. You know what I mean? And by the way, I just want to make sure that we're clear here. A lot of people talk about ABM and, oh, this is the answer. It's not the answer if you're selling to the SMB and you're selling a commodity type product. Like it's only the answer if you're selling a somewhat complex solution to mid-market or above. Okay. But, it is that realization that it's like, yeah, it probably doesn't work well to hammer CEOs of Fortune 500 companies with a ton of meaningless content. That's what ABM really is. And I think it's also an understanding that, hey, we need to work, again, going back to we need to work together here. And it's not just about, marketing versus sales. It's about, to your point, as you guys call it, account-based everything. So we're all on the same team here.
Got it. Love it. Where do you see, ABM or, account-based strategies heading in the future?
Yeah. So my opinion on this, I think with artificial intelligence and all those things, I think it's just going to get better, because the problem is it's not going to be the people doing it. So I'm actually really afraid for a lot of sales reps, right now who are just going through the motions and cranking out those template emails and stuff like that. Because artificial intelligence is coming upstream way faster than I expected.
Yeah.
I saw an email the other day cranked out by this AI bot that was, when I say it was a better email than I could have ever written. It was a more personalized, customized email than I could have ever written. I emailed the team back, because they were a group that took my training and actually left Salesforce and actually created this stuff based on my training. And when they hit me up with the thing, I was like, there was no human involvement in this email. And they were like, yeah, nope. All we did was point it at an article. They pointed the bot at an article and they said, there's an article, go find something. And I'm not kidding you, Brandon, when I say I couldn't have written a better email. And so with that, to me, it's just going to get more personalized, more tailored. The roles are going to change. Here's my solution, and I'm going to try to get some traction around this. So help me, but make sure I get credit for it, because I've been talking about this pod approach, where currently, for instance, and I've been talking about this for about a year now because I see where it's going. Or let's put it this way: I see where it should go. Where right now you have like one SDR or BDR to like 2 or 3 AEs, right? And then you have marketing doing their thing to these accounts. So effectively, you kind of have this team going after these territories and whatever it is. But there's still a missing link because marketing's still doing this at a broader level.
Yep.
And sales is still doing this. And most companies haven't really implemented ABM really the right way. I mean, maybe to the major accounts, their top 10 or something like that. But what I think would be great is to have like a marketing intern, for instance, be put on this pod. So you have an SDR, BDR, you have 2 or 3 AEs that are around this, going after this territory of mid-market or enterprise. And then you put a marketing intern or low level, like first year out of school marketing rep, really cheap resource here. Okay. And their job is to actually go back and sit with the team. Right. And listen to, like, understand what the challenges are that they're trying to, the specific stuff, whatever, and then bring that back to the bigger marketing team and saying, hey, this is what my team needs, right? Out of all the other shit that you're putting together here, my team needs these type of assets and these type of resources here. So could you put those together? And the marketing intern is the one that can run the reports and the analytics on stuff, because sales reps are terrible with that shit. You know what I mean? As far as like running any type of reports or any type of analysis of what's working and what's not. Yep. As much as I'd love sales reps to do it, let's just face it, they're not going to. But a marketing rep who come out of school with those knowledge and how to run these tools and these analytics, they could then do this. Hey, this is what our market is saying. This is what our territory is saying. And this is what we need. These are the personas in my industry. This is what's working and what's not. Now, big boy marketing team, these are the assets I need. And being that conduit between the two and having that little pod, marketing intern, SDR, BDR, 2 or 3 AEs, that then going in and taking over a territory, taking over a region or whatever it is. Because then that just allows for growth paths in a lot of different ways, right? Because now the marketing intern can say, hey, man, I like sales, or hey, I like the analytics, I like the operations side of this, or I want to keep going into the marketing and I want to be more aligned with sales. And because they get the exposure to sales early, as they grow through their careers, they become much more in line with sales and much more appreciative of what sales reps have to go through in order to be effective. And that's where I think we can create a lot more, my least favorite word, synergies. But I think that, to me, that's the way I would do it. Let's put it that way. I would get some marketing interns, some low level, $40,000 a year kids, give them an opportunity to grow, put them on a team to listen, provide feedback, some structure around it, and let it roll.
I love it. John, thank you so much. We're coming up on time here. One last question for you. I'd like to end with a question, a funner question. What's your hidden talent? A hidden talent that people may not know.
I would say, not too many people know I'm an artist. Like I do nice. Paint. I do paint quite a bit. If anybody's, I have a Halloween party that comes up every single year, and I paint my basement floor to ceiling and kind of get weird down there. So, I don't do it as much as I'd like to anymore, but that's kind of my outlet.
Amazing. John, thank you so much. So tell people where they can find a little bit more about you. You have some of the best free sales training out there that I've ever seen. So tell people where they can get that.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, just go to JBarrows.com, JBarrows.com, and you'll see on the resource library, that's where I give out most of my shit for free. I'm up on Snapchat. I answer questions on Snapchat. That's John M as in Michael Barrows, all one word. And then Twitter, same handle. And then I'm also doing these Make It Happen Mondays. So it's on Facebook Live. So I light up Facebook Live from 12:30 to 1 o'clock on Mondays, East Coast time. And answer any questions that reps have. I usually pick a topic and riff on it for a little bit, and then do some Q&A. And I'm all, obviously LinkedIn and those type of things as well. But I'm just trying to try to get as much good content out there to as many reps as I can to try to help those reps that do want to survive and don't want to get replaced by technology. Help them kind of take that next steps in their careers.
You're doing an amazing job, and thanks again, John, for joining us. And we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, thanks, Brent. I appreciate it. Cheers.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.